Well, we bought ourselves a project. She's a 1978 Circle J 2-horse trailer. She's a cute little thing, but she's pretty rough around the edges. She's got some cancer throughout. She's got some tire issues, some fender issues. She's got a lot of issues inside. As you can see, we already started demo on one side. We're gonna get started on the other side here soon. Our goal is to set this up so that we can take the pigs to fair, maybe even to other shows. We want to tack them up front so that we can have water up there, have shavings, have all the things we need. I'm not a big fan of the way she sits right now, so we're going to completely restore her. We're going to go black everything. With all that, we're going to start tearing apart this side, start having some fun demo. You want to start on that trim? A year prior to this, we took our first 4-H pig to fair. To haul it, we had to borrow a trailer. I'm not a huge fan of borrowing anything, so I went searching for a trailer for ourselves. Good? The second I saw this trailer, I loved it, but I knew she could look a lot better. My son was a huge part of this trailer rebuild, especially the demo. You'll see though that he kind of disappears once it comes time to rebuild. Open trailer concept. Okay, fenders. To pull all the trim, we just drilled out all the rivets and the trim came off pretty easy. Some of the rivets and bolts needed to be persuaded with the grinder, but they soon learned their lesson. There were thousands of rivets on this trailer. All the trim came off pretty easy and I stored it all to the side to be used later, which I didn't end up using much of. Not totally sure we're going to replace the window up front, but just in case we do, I'm going to mark them left and right. I think they're both the same, but just in case. I'm glad I marked those, because I did end up using those, and they went right back on perfectly. Finally, all the rivets were done, and it was time to move on to removing the paneling. We got a little bit of rust back here. A little bit of cancer. Oh well, we'll get it all cleaned up. This was also a lot of work because most of it was welded in spots and had to be ground off or persuaded off with a hammer, large chisel, or crowbar. Alright, this will be my favorite part of the whole demo. It's getting rid of this wood grain. It's my least favorite part of the whole trailer. And I think it's time. I just got all the rivets off, so hopefully it just pulls right off. It's the nicest part of the whole trailer. Pretty happy to see that. That means I might not have to take this piece off. There's no rust on it anywhere. Just some of the holes from the rivets. Pulling off the roof was pretty straightforward. Just drill out the rivets, cut the electrical, and call in the muscle to help take it off. Having a cordless grinder was a lifesaver on this project. I constantly had a battery on the charger and went through who knows how many cutoff wheels, but it was a lot. Our goal is to add a small tack room up front, so I have to remove the shelf that was used for hay storage. Not to mention, this was completely full of rust, so I had to cut all the rust out anyways. Next was to pull the wheels and tires. I don't show it in this video, but I bought all new wheels and tires for this trailer. These fenders weren't in that bad a shape, but they had to go anyways because they were in the way. All right, it's time to see who's going under the trailer. Usually, he beats me at rock, paper, scissors. Ha, but not this time. Unfortunately, this trailer required way more demo than I anticipated, and it was taking a lot longer than I had hoped. We bought this trailer in February. Boom! And it had to be finished by June 20th. That seems like a long time, but I also had a full-time job, way more than usual plasma table and welding jobs. We had a house fire that I was dealing with, plus we were preparing to move out of state. Okay, so I finally finished most of the demo. It's about this point I'm starting to regret this whole decision of rebuilding this trailer. There's so much rust in this thing, it's not even funny. Let me turn the camera around and I'll show you some of it. This front cross member here is completely rusted through this section, all over here. The whole bar is gonna have to be replaced. There's a bunch of rust on this piece down here, especially this corner. You can see it's gone. There's nothing left of that. This piece down here, which holds the floor, is completely rusted out. You can see all the holes here. There's no strength in this. The bottoms of these supports are pretty rusted out, both sides. And let me swing this door. And both these doors, there's nothing left at the bottom of these. You can see that one there too. So that's the bulk of it. There's a little bit of rust in the corner there, and there's a little bit on these crossbars. A lot of it's just surface rust that I can easily clean up, but a lot of it is structural rust that I have to repair. So let's get started with the repairs of this rust. Back to work. So as you just saw, there's a lot of rust on this trailer. Really, it's not that bad. I can fix it all, but just, do I really want to? Did I really want to when I started this project? It is what it is. So I'll start cutting out a lot of the rust and start welding and rebuilding this trailer. That's all the stuff I didn't anticipate and couldn't really see when we bought it. I knew there was some cancerous rust, but not near this much. But really, I should have known. I mean, it's a 46-year-old horse trailer. But oh well, can't go back now. I have way too much invested in it at this point. I was planning on just rebuilding the bottoms of these doors, but you'll see later, that's not the case. My son's friend Braden was over for the day and wanted to help with the trailer, so I had the perfect job for him. Pressure wash all the dirt, grime, and loose rust off. Honestly, I think he did a better job than I would have done. Thanks for your help, Braden, and you're welcome to come help with any project, anytime. This trailer tongue was an absolute nightmare and took me forever. So like I just said, I'm very limited on tools. We had a fire in November and I lost all my tools. Everything you see me using in this video, I either bought for this project, was in storage away from the fire, or was donated to me. Thank you to all those who helped after the fire. All right, I decided to pivot a little bit. I was gonna wire wheel the whole trailer, but I think now I'm gonna wire wheel as I go along in sections. There's a lot to do on the front section. There's a lot to do in the middle and the back. So I'll wire wheel as I work on that section. As you just saw, I got the hitch off up there. That was a royal pain in the butt, but I finally got it. Threw a little coat on it to protect it from rust until I'm ready to put the hitch on. So the next step is to start rebuilding. With that, I'm gonna start on this front section here. I'm gonna put in this cross member, which matches this one, because this whole front is structural to the tongue. I can actually see that the tongue is dipping a little bit. So I'm gonna start here, and then I'm gonna start working my way back. I think after I do that, I'll just keep cutting out all the cancerous rust and just keep rebuilding from front to back. Hopefully we'll get this project done soon. All right, I'm back at it. And today, I'm gonna try to bend this. I have no tubing bender. I have no torch to heat it up. I don't have much of anything. So let's see if I can do it. I have some ideas. For that, we'll go to the workbench. This is how I was able to make those bends. This took a very long time, and I was really wishing I had a tubing bender at this point. On to the welding. It felt good to get to this stage, because up to this point, it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. Wish me luck. It's perfect. Though this is a really good way to get bends, it's unfortunately a pain in the butt because you have to weld up every cut. So let the welding begin. So that was an awful lot of work just to get some bins, but I think it turned out really good. Now we can move on with the trailer. This jack out, make sure everything holds. We'll move on. To help with further rust prevention, everywhere I hit with the grinder or welded, I coat it with primer. Like I showed earlier, this piece was one of the main structures holding the floor in, and it was completely rusted out. Thankfully, I had this large piece of angle iron laying around, and it was a perfect fit. Somehow I lost a lot of footage for this project, so if it seems like a step is missing, or it seems jumpy at times, that's why. I figured since I'm this far into this project, I might as well make it stronger, so I added 2x4 tubing above the axle. This back door, or ramp, is one of the reasons we bought this trailer. It makes it real easy for the pigs to walk up instead of having to step up into the trailer like most horse trailers. Here I'm cutting the floor of the tack room out of 14 gauge sheet metal. This was a fairly intricate piece to cut, and unfortunately me installing it is some of the footage we lost. On to my favorite part of this whole project, building all the doors. The one I'm working on here is the ramp door, and I love the way this one came out. I like to put this fan next to me while I'm welding to help pull the fumes away from me. It doesn't pull all of it, but it definitely helps. I got some super strong bullet hinges for this ramp. I don't show much of it here, but getting these to line up straight and be square was very difficult. Because as you can imagine, this trailer is far from flat and far from square. Not to mention, there's hardly any room to work on underneath it. Onto the upper back doors. These are just simple rectangles. Having the plasma table made quick and easy work of making these panels. So I know the lighting's not the best here, but I have to explain something. So I made the doors, I mocked them up, and we have an issue. It's a personal issue. The issue is the doors don't line up with the bottom door perfectly to make it symmetrical on the sides and in the center. So my son and I talked about it a lot, and what we came up with is we're gonna cheat the center a little bit so it looks like they line up on the side. Okay, so here's what I'm explaining. I would like for these to line up flush and be perfect. But if I do that, then we have a gap in the doors you can see through into the trailer. I don't like that. So I'm gonna cheat them over a little bit. That way we get the sides to look perfect and the gap is close. If you can see here, our gap is not the exact same on either side. We learned the reason for that is the whole trailer is crooked just a little bit. So the back door is straight to the frame. The top doors are straight to the bottom door, but the whole center frame and the two outside frames are just ever so slightly kicked over. It's kind of a bummer. I like everything to be symmetrical and perfect. So with that being said, I'm just gonna run it like it is. I'm gonna weld the hinges on this side and we're just gonna keep moving forward. I have a hard time with things not being symmetrical, but in the end, these doors turned out pretty good. Just burnt this shit out of my hand. Well, that happened. Apparently my tacks weren't good enough, but I was trying to make sure the doors would swing okay before I fully welded it. Perfect. For the back door, we wanted some traction for the pigs, so I used 14 gauge diamond plate. I had also planned on using bed liner for the ramp and floor, but ran out of time. I might do that in the future. We'll see. All right, so I kind of struggled a little bit with the latches, both the bottom and the top door. I wasn't sure what I was going to do for both. So I didn't really film much of that. I did post a lot of this on Instagram, so you can check that out if you want over there. It was pretty fun to figure this out and try to get this shape. I really like the way this turned out. These, I don't know, these are cool. They're not my favorite, but I like them. They work really good. They're super simple. I got the springs set up on the back. That was kind of a challenge. So like I said, I didn't show much of this, but there's nothing really to see here. So I think now I'm gonna get started on the siding and we'll try to get this thing done. Seriously, those springs were a royal pain. For the siding, I used 20 gauge sheet metal. These sheets are a bit floppy, but easy to work with, and they cut really easy. Anywhere that would not get paint on it, once installed, I cleaned off and primed. That way everything was coated. To install the paneling, I used 1/4 inch self-tapping screws and spaced them about 5 inches apart. My goal was that it would have that rivet bomber look. So many screws. Finally, done with all the screws and onto the windows. You'll see here, I'm tracing the window on the outside, then went inside. As you see, it's a good thing I went inside because I was totally in the wrong spot on the outside. If I might add, that window looks good. All right, onto the fenders. I went back and forth for a while on whether to build or buy the fenders. But I hate to buy anything that I can build, so obviously I chose to build them. This was fun. I'd never built fenders before and learned a lot from this step. I would completely do them differently if I were to do it again. If I were to build fenders again, I would add a little 1 or 2 inch lip on the inside of these fenders and bolt them on instead of weld them. So I almost just totally screwed up. I just welded and grinded this one all down, and I went to set it down next to this one and I realized I have the light holes going the exact same way. My intention was to have them going this way, from the trailer wall going up, out. This one, I have it from the trailer wall going down. I actually kind of like this a little better than this one, so thankfully it's an easy fix. I'll just cut this one off, flip it, and we'll weld this one up. Crisis averted. Best Arc sent me this little welder. This thing's actually pretty cool. I'm pretty surprised with it. It works really good, especially with the flux core and the stick welder. I have a full review video. I'll leave a link in the description below. I will also leave a link to the welder itself in the description below. Go check it out. So even though that seems extremely strong, I'm gonna add some crossbars underneath the ends on each side. Finally, on to primer. For both paint and primer, I used Rust-Oleum protective enamel and thinned it with mineral spirits. For the interior walls, I use 1/2-inch plywood for 2 reasons. One, it won't be hot to the touch for the pigs, and if it gets destroyed or damaged in any way, I can easily replace it or repair it. The floor is pressure treated 2x6s, and I got super lucky here. I didn't have to rip any of these down. It took 11 pieces and they all fit in perfectly. I'm a little bummed by this little gap here. I don't know if you can see it well, but it's kind of a bummer. I had the same issue down there. I had to cut the 2x6. I did the exact same thing on this side versus this side. This side was first and everything worked out perfect. So I measured everything off of this beam here on that side and this side is lower over here. If you remember earlier in the video, I had all kinds of issues with that side of the beam. I think this whole trailer, this side is just jacked up and out of alignment. Is what it is. This is fine. So be it. Just got to move on, keep going, try to get this thing done. I have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and some of Saturday. I have 3.5 days to get this thing finished. So it's a push. We'll get it. Like I said there, it was getting down to the wire. I worked my tail off on these last 3 days to get this trailer done. To be honest, it wasn't totally finished by the time fair came around, but it was done enough to get the pigs to fair. See all those little things flying around? They were huge fly-looking beetle things. I had lived in that same area most of my life and had never seen them before. They were around for a couple of weeks, and every time I started spraying, they would swarm me, thousands of them. They got in my paint, my ears, my eyes. They were terrible. But despite all that, we got it done. Unfortunately, me cleaning the roof is the last of the footage I have, so we'll just move straight to the finished project. Well, here she is in all her glory. Isn't she a beaut? All right, well, sorry, it's a little rainy and gloomy today, but we want to get this video out, so we're doing this in the rain. Let me show you a couple of cool features of this trailer. All right, so one of those cool features is this jack here. So normally on a jack for a trailer, you would have a handle of some sort to jack it up and down. Well, I always have an impact and sockets in my truck, so I just welded a nut onto the top of this hitch. I just bring the impact out, raise it up and down. It's super fast and super easy that way. All right, next let's move over to the tack room. All right, first is this latch here. This is a gate latch that I found on Amazon. I wasn't sure when I ordered it, but I absolutely love this thing. Just for the fun of it, I'll leave it in the description below, but this thing works great. And inside is exactly what we wanted. Just a simple, easy room that we can store everything in. It held all of our tack, it held shavings. I mean, this thing was plumb full for taking the pigs to fair. And the door turned out great. All right, earlier I mentioned I bought new wheels and tires. Here they are. These are great. I found these on Marketplace. They were brand new. They worked really, really good, and they were already black, so that was a nice bonus. These fenders that I built, they worked super good. I added these little 3/4 inch marker lights on the sides. They look sweet at night. Unfortunately, I don't think I have a shot of that, but trust me, they look good. And now onto the back of the trailer. The tail lights I got here, these are really cool. These have a reverse light, brake light, tail light. They look really good, and they light up the whole back of the trailer in reverse. I love that feature. All right, next is the latches. These are probably the only original part on the outside of this trailer, but they work really, really good, so I decided to keep them. All this back here worked flawlessly. I really, really like these. I know earlier I said I wasn't sure about them, but check this out. Just latches and closes. I love that feature. The springs worked really good at holding the door up. I added these little bump stops to protect the door from hitting the ground and getting all rubbed up. These work really, really good. All right, next, let's go inside. And really, there's not a whole lot different in here than what you saw earlier in the video. It worked really good. The pigs were really comfortable in here. I got no complaints. Well, I take that back. I got one complaint. I got some holes up top and I'm getting some water inside, but pressure treated wood, it's all painted, it should be okay. All right, well, that's it for this one. This was a super fun project for me. It took a very long time, way longer than I anticipated, like I've said, but it was a great project. It worked really, really well. In fact, it worked so well that it helped us move 1,000 miles to this new location. You should have seen that. It was jam-packed full. But it got us here, and it did super good towing all that way. All right, well, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.